Hello, everybody. I'm trying out a little bit of some of these features here in StreamYard, and I wanted to um, get into a bit of a tweet thread, a short tweet thread that I did a couple of days ago. And my good friend Steve Skojic regularly chides me for being cryptic and mercurial, and he's right. And I'm not really sure why I do it this way, but I do, and so I'm going to spend a little time today trying to unpack this thread I did about man caves and the cave of men. And here is the opening slide of that original tweet thread. So start up here. The man cave. Let me make it a little bigger here. Right. The man cave will only get. Sorry. The man cave will only get more immersive and impressive in the coming few years. And of course, this is a reference to the AI. The AI stuff is coming and it is real. We've already looked at the deep fakes, but the ability for these new programs to imitate and to confound us, I think, is growing with really kind of exponential speed. And therefore, I think it'll be increasingly difficult for us to be able to tell the difference between, what we might call, the fake and the real. And, the real is something that I spend a decent amount of time thinking through. And of course, in my deep dive with stories, plays, novels, poems, it always seems to me that the protagonist struggles with being able to, sort of trust but verify, being able to understand or to see into the truth of things. And so, of course, this podcast is called The Underneath, and this has been one of my obsessions. And so getting to the underneath is getting to really what is real versus what is fake. Anyway, in this thread, I say the man cave will only get more immersive and oppressive in the coming few years. It will more than likely get to holodeck levels of believability. Holodeck is a recurring motif in Star Trek: The Next Generation, and there's an image of it right there. And this is something I just pulled from the wiki fandom. The holodeck environment simulator, or holodeck, as it was most commonly referred to, was a holographic simulation room, an early version of what we would just call virtual reality. And in the show, interestingly enough, it was predicted that in the show lore, that the early forms of the holodeck, which were borrowed technologies, which is an interesting notion from an alien ship, that it didn't show up until 2151. So we're a little bit over 100 years removed from that prediction, but I do think we'll probably get there sooner. Now, in the show, I understand what they were using it for in terms of storytelling, because there's only so much you can do on a spaceship with sort of austere settings and smooth lines and silly quasi-futuristic clothing that you see in the Star Trek Next Generation and all the Star Trek shows. But so basically they used this as a mechanism to explore character in different environments. And it's pretty neat. It's pretty interesting. And it occurred to me, this is years ago. I was in college when I would watch the show with some of my friends. I was never a Trekkie or a Trekker myself, but watched the show with friends. And it occurred to me that if we ever got the holodeck, you'd never leave. It's too good. That the rough edges of reality would make it so distasteful when you could simply program your fantasies, and and you can program your fantasies in a variety of different ways, and it's the imagination is a wild place, and you can imagine where you would go in a variety of different things. And so in the story, or in the show rather, they use it as a way of exploring, Picard's character and Riker's character and these other people. And, if you put a character in a different situation, allowing them to explore different aspects of their psyche, it reveals new things and pushes the story forward. But again, I had always thought that if we could do this, that reality would just be too much for us. And I think it's Eliot who says that humankind cannot bear too much reality, and so therefore we would retreat into this holodeck or this kind of cave-like setting. Now, interestingly enough, as I was preparing to record this show, I just did a quick lookup of the phrase man cave. And the first recorded that I could find, the first recorded instance of man cave circulates or surfaces rather in 1992, which I think is interesting. And of course, the man cave has become this meme. A meme that is a place where the man goes to, I don't know, watch his sports ball or to watch his movies or play his video games, while the upstairs portion of the house, the acceptable portions of the house, I guess, are run by the wife. I'm not really sure how that would go, but the idea is that this is a retreat space for men. And it's interesting to me, of course, that it is subterranean, is below ground. And that's something that I think about quite a bit. And it's a strange kind of inversion because it becomes, I think, a kind of safe space for manly or masculine things, which sort of have retreated in an interesting sort of way. And I don't, of course, want to get into manosphere type stuff, but I do think it is interesting. But as I say here in the tweet, that I understand why the storytellers in Star Trek used it for their storytelling, but I've always maintained that if we could do it, we would never leave. And in fact, it would end the world. Because everyone would just simply not leave. And so I quip that it's a kind of world uncreator. And here we are in the moment of AI. I called it an advent in the thread, and it seems to me that it's really here, that the waiting is kind of over. It's just a matter of filling out the details and how immersive and responsive can it become. Now, so it got me thinking about, well, what happens in the man cave? And man cave is for sports, games, that kind of thing, but also it's for gaming. And, if you think about Fortnite or World of Warcraft or Minecraft or any of these kinds of large, immersive, networked world games, we see that they can suck hours and weeks and days of our attention. And so can you imagine then what the holodeck would do? I don't anticipate that we will handle it all that well. And it really feels to me that the incentives are really pulling us apart as we retreat further and further into our screens. What if we could actually jump into those screens? And then, of course, it naturally got me thinking of these man caves becoming versions of hiding and a space in which we can kind of retreat from the real and immerse ourselves in the simulation or the simulacrum. And I think this is probably true. And those of us, of course, who grew up with TV and early non-network video games, we can attest to the ability of these gods, these digital gods, to pull us out of real space and into immersive fictive digital spaces, and that was, of course, prior to the networks. And now with sort of this networked pseudo reality, it would seem likely that this will cause maybe or incentivize a further retreat from the real. And therefore, it struck me that the man cave will flip and it will become the cave of man. And maybe Socrates, of course, who gives us that ancient image of the cave as this space where the masters of the images control, the masses, right? And so, what if we reverse that and we go from reality into the cave? And if you recall in the parable, they do in fact do that. They go outside, they see the light, and they're frustrated and upset, and they go back inside to see it. So, the man cave, I think, will become the cave of man. Thank you.